president-elect, but he won. So it looks like they're going to have to get used to it. Joining me right now to break it all down, Fox News contributor Charles Hurt, Republican strategist Evan Siegfried, and Democratic strategist Harlan Hill. Good to have you guys here. Progressive radio show host Leslie Marshall is going to be joining us as well, along with conservative commentator Gina Loud. Got a big team here for you. How did they miss it, Harlan? I mean, yeah. They were just absolutely blindsided, and Hillary Clinton's supporters, and maybe Hillary Clinton herself, completely blindsided by this. Why?
Well, I think that they overestimated how much of the Obama coalition would actually turn out on Election Day for her. Mm-hmm. And look, when you look at the actual data, she underperformed Barack Obama with African Americans, with Latinos, even with women. Even with women. We should have been the defining group for her. And so I think that was a big part of it. If they didn't show up on Election Day, there's no reason to, and carrying over to these protests, if you didn't show up on Election Day, you don't have any room to complain.
Well, so. You know, a lot of them didn't show up on Election Day, but they're showing up to protest. You're looking there at Philadelphia coming into us right now from APTN, and those are anti-protesters taken to the streets. What's your thought on this, Evan?
Listen, if they had shown up to the polls like they're showing up on the streets, Hillary Clinton would have taken Pennsylvania and other states. This is something that...
Yeah, ironic that this is happening.
Yeah, I'm sure Hillary's ground game is thrilled that this is going on now instead of 24 hours ago. But if you actually look at it, I was going over and looking at many liberals' timelines on Twitter, and they were tweeting out things at about 6, 7 o'clock last night. No matter what, we should all accept the results. It's not rigged. And then 3 hours later, after it turned the exact opposite, we should burn it all down. Yeah. So it's sort of practice what you preach. And they should be held accountable for that.
I saw the same thing on social media. Charles Hurt here with us on set as well, where so many people were saying, you know, this system is rigged. It's absolutely, and I'm like, aren't you the same exact people that were all over Donald Trump saying he threatened the democratic process because he was saying, I think the system's rigged, Charles?
Yeah, it's funny. Just a minute ago, I got kind of caught up, walked out across the street, got caught up in one of these things. There must have been probably, I would say there was a good 7,000 to 8,000 people stretching blocks and demanding civility, and Trump is rude. You know, they were saying the rudest things.
That, right?
The rudest things, horrible things about him and I guess us and everybody. They were, but you know, they struck me. It strikes me that they're probably Bernie Sanders supporters, and I suspect that a lot of them did stay home and didn't come out for Hillary.
There
Clinton.
is a double standard, though. I think, right? I mean, you know, when you talk about how they turned this on its head, Gina Loudon, and they said, okay, well, now it's rigged because Donald Trump won, and now they're out there protesting and making lewd comments. And you know, so far, I want to point out things have been peaceful, but there are some concerns that this kind of stuff can turn rather quickly and escalate in a way that you don't want to see. But Gina, I mean, my goodness, it's okay for one group to do it, just not okay for a conservative.
Right. Well, all you have to do is remember the Tea Party. The Tea Parties were branded racist by their existence, despite the fact that they left everything clean. There was never anything profane. No one was ever hurt or injured at a Tea Party, and yet they wanted to label that protesting as some sort of, you know, crazy, radical activity. Here's my question for them, Trish. What are they protesting? Mr. Trump hasn't done anything yet. I think it's almost comical. It's poorly timed. It spells out for really the rest of the world that they don't believe their own standards apply to them, and they are willing to be perfect hypocrites. It makes their narrative ineffective.
Yeah, and we're looking there at pictures coming to us from Portland, Oregon, and you can see they're shutting down traffic there on that highway. So, you know, I think you make a valid point. What are they protesting? Let's go to Leslie Marshall, who's been in touch with a lot of liberals who don't like how this election unfolded. You know, Leslie, so I'm going to beg to differ. You said that Donald Trump was the most beatable candidate, and that's got proven wrong.
Well, I didn't think he was the most beatable. Remember, I said I live in a state where Arnold Schwarzenegger became my governor. I said don't underestimate name recognition, big bravado, and the cult of personality of celebrity. And Donald Trump had all of those. I really thought that he was an easier candidate to beat, quite frankly, than a John Kasich or a Marco Rubio. And I, like the pollsters, was wrong. I want to speak to this protest because I am a liberal Democrat who supported Hillary Clinton, and I have puffy eyes from crying a day and a half, and I'm wearing black for mourning today. However, I'm not out on the streets. I voted yesterday. And to the point of some of the people on your panel, one, a lot of Bernie, Bernie or bust, they stayed home, and you don't protest now. You should have got out and voted before, because if you had the youth and then you had the African-American vote in many of those blue-collar states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan, and then you added to it those people that put their vote for Gary Johnson, this would be a very different conversation today. So I would prefer them to have voted before than cry after.
Yeah, I mean, hello. I mean, you got to engage in the democratic process, and you don't use this as an excuse to go out and protest and, raise some HELL, which is, let's face it, there's an element of that. Right? Especially, you look out there in Portland, Oregon, or Oakland, California.
Absolutely. And what do they want at this point? I mean, at this point, it looks like just the world's biggest temper tantrum. They're burning flags. They're massive civil disobedience. They're blocking roads. What's the end game? We know that they're frustrated with the fact that Donald Trump has won the presidency, but what are they after at this point? That's what I don't quite understand. Is this just them trying to relieve pressure? Or are they actually protesting for something? Do they want the attention of Congress?
They want the attention of, they want attention. They want people to say, okay, the world is so unruly now because Donald Trump is going to be our president. Oh, my goodness gracious, what are we going to do? This is exactly what they're trying to do, and they want attention, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go out and give them a hug after. I mean, that's really what they want. No, listen, they are actually really undermining the democratic process. When Donald Trump made the claim that this election is rigged, a lot of people pushed back and said, we are the gold standard for democracy throughout the world. Other countries, especially third world countries with dictators, strive to have our open and fair democratic process. And now they're going out and just saying, this is not what we like. It wasn't fair. It was rigged. No, it wasn't. Donald Trump won this election fair and square, and he is the 45th president of the United States. Period.
And he has a tremendous opportunity in front of him, Charles. I mean, he's got the wind at his back. He's got the House. He's got the Senate. He's got the Oval Office. And he is a guy who wants to get stuff done. I mean, I made the point earlier, his ego alone, let's face it. And I say that in a positive way because you need a ton of ego to be the president of the United States of America. His ego alone will not tolerate ineffectiveness. He's going to want to see a massive GDP number. He's going to want to see wages increase. He's going to want to see record low unemployment.
And I think that's also why he really buckled down at the end and did the things that needed to be done to win, is because he really didn't want to lose. And didn't want to lose to Hillary Clinton. It is a tremendous opportunity that he has right now, and what I think is kind of interesting about it is that this is a guy who thinks outside of the box. He does everything. He tears every rule book up. Starts from scratch with everything, and that's not a bad place to start if you're going to try to fix the mess that is Washington.
Yeah, I think there really is an opportunity. I say this over and over again because our Federal Reserve has been put in a bit of a bind, and I don't have a whole lot of use for Fed governors, especially the way they're talking to the media every time you turn around. But they have been the only game in town because you know why? President Obama, he can't reach out. It just wasn't in his DNA. He wasn't able to get anything done. So you had no effectiveness on the fiscal policy side. You were left with only monetary policy. Well, guess what, Evan? Now there is a chance to actually get stuff done, to actually see meaningful reform, to repeal things like Obamacare, which are crippling businesses, to find a way to get lower taxes, to incentivize companies to bring all those offshore profits back here home. I mean, if you're able to unleash this prosperity, what is the potential?
It's limitless at this point. But what Donald Trump really needs to do is he has about a year with the American public to get two types of results. One, tangible results, something that everybody around their dinner table can say, Donald Trump made my bills less and I don't have to pay more for cost of living. And two, an emotional result, such as some sort of big victory over ISIS or something that we can be proud of as a nation. And if he can do that in the first year, he's doing very well. Otherwise, voters and Americans of both sides of the aisle will become more and more impatient with him, and that's a risk.
All right. stay with me. I want to keep talking about this. Again, I just want to point out to everyone there's a lot of opportunity right now on the economic front, and he may be able to really get stuff done in a way that we just haven't seen. You're looking at Chicago there, again, more protesters. They're in the streets. This is a highly organized effort.